In August, I began a journey to change my life. I didn't like the way it was going. I didn't like much about myself. I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I was acting. I didn't like my health situation. My future didn't look really great. And so I began conversations with a dear friend of mine. I confirmed her and baptized her as a teenager years ago. She now lived in Arizona working as a health coach. And in the course of our conversations, she agreed to take me on as a client and to lead me into a new program. Not a diet, but a new way of thinking about my life and behaving, a changing of the way I lived. It was pretty dramatic, and the results have been likewise dramatic. And yet, it's been hard, because old habits do die hard. We began our Advent journey together, talking about rootedness, and how this season is rooted in the promises that God made to our ancestors, and that to understand fully the impact of Christ's coming, we had to know about those promises that God made to those same ancestors in the Hebrew Scriptures. Last week, we talked about how Luke roots Jesus into history and into those same promises made to our ancestors. And now this week, John the Baptist shows up with an axe and announces he's hacking away at those roots. So what's that all about? One of the things I've done over the course of COVID is to renew a relationship with an old friend of mine, ancient and medieval history. I've embarked on a series of courses and books that have renewed my passion for those time periods and history in general, political, military, artistic. And it's been fascinating over the course of this last year and a half, reliving that history, to recognize that there are patterns of behavior that simply repeat, old habits, if you would, a rootedness. In fact, it's amazing to look at what we're going through these days, not just a pandemic, but the way we're behaving, the polarization of the nation, the disgruntlement, the antagonism, all the stuff we complain about day in and day out. It's nothing new. It may be accompanied with a new technology, but the same behaviors have been there forever. They crop up time and time and time again. The disturbing part is that they usually just precede a moment of great turmoil, tribulation, and radical change. We do well to do some reading these days, lest we continue to embark on the way we're walking. Old habits, you know. We may talk about this as a rootedness in sin, that part of us that keeps wanting to go backwards into those old and unhealthy behaviors that destroy not only us in body and soul, but also in our relationships in the world we live in. It's that which John has come to take a chop at. And he announces that there's a new way of life being offered by God. It's coming. In fact, it's already here. And when people ask, well, how do they change? What do they need to do? He's pretty candid. If you got a lot of stuff, give some of the stuff away. In business, make sure you do so with integrity. You don't cheat. If you're a person of power and authority, don't use that power and authority to extort or to bully. tough walk. Old habits are hard to break. The roots go deep. It's been part of my journey. And I must say that I could not have done it without Noelle's accompaniment. Her texts, her phone calls, her answering questions, her constant watching over me and calling for accountability. That's what John does, is he holds us accountable to our past, to our sinfulness, to our brokenness. He reminds us that it's time for a change. But that change comes with an accompaniment. There is one who is coming and who is already here, who will be with us, even as we make these drastic changes in how we relate to one another and how we relate to God. Jesus the Christ will walk with us. With the gift of the Holy Spirit, he calls, gathers, enlightens, sanctifies, and keeps us as people of faith. In the waters of baptism, our promises are renewed. The promises that we have made to God and God has made to us, that he will be our God and we shall be his people, and this is how we will walk. He gathers us around the table that we might eat and drink of life, of grace and forgiveness. And he gathers us as communities of faith, that we may walk with one another and encourage one another along the way. For it will be together that we will be sustained in the midst of our weariness and have our joy restored. It's time to live a new walk, to walk a new walk, to live a new life. But we're not in this alone. Thank God. On Jordan's banks the Baptist cries, announces that the Lord is nigh. Awake and hearken, for he brings glad tidings of the King of Kings. Then cleansed be every life from sin, make straight the way for God within, and let us all our hearts prepare for Christ to come and enter there. Stretch forth your hand, our health restore, and make us rise to fall no more. Oh, let your face upon us shine, and fill the world with love divine.